Well, hey there, everybody. Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. I am back home after a couple of fishing trips to the trout streams in southeastern Minnesota. And I am carrying a minor case of sunburn because things have really heated up here in Minnesota. Holy cow, 90 degrees. I had the boys down doing a lot of fishing. And that's kind of the topic um, that I wanted to focus on today is getting kids outdoors and fishing right now. It's been huge for the Sherck family, and I think it's been pretty big for the family of my guest today, Kolt Ringer. Kolt, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well, Bill. In the middle of summer in June in Minnesota where it's 90.
It just kind of went from cold to absolutely hot. Opener, which feels like it was a week ago, we had 3 inches of snow. And like I said, we were down on some of the trout streams and it was sweaty and 90. And we may or may not have done a good job with the sunscreen.
It's too early for sunscreen. It's only the beginning of June. We don't put sunscreen on up here until July.
Oh my gosh. But Colt is well known around Minnesota. He is part of the Lund Boats Pro staff. He is the owner of Aquaview, which is our big camera business up here. And you're also famous and looked up to by a bunch of kids because you're the guy who came up with an angling league for kids, the AAL. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, thanks. That's still my passion is fish. Just like you with your two sons, I've got three kids of my own that growing up when they were five, hit that age where it was time to sign up for t-ball and baseball, and I had a passion for fishing. I decided to start a fishing league on Lake Minnetonka and kind of model it after what other youth sports were doing was start them young, keep track of some points, hand out some medals and some trophies and t-shirts, and really just tried to get some dads that had some boats to invite some of their kids and their kids' friends. And we made a friendly competition of it. And I think we're in almost 10 years of the league on Lake Minnetonka and a couple other areas going strong for 5 to 12-year-olds. And it's just, like you said, been a passion of mine with my kids fishing, and it's been a lot of fun.
And the kids have fallen in love with it. You probably think I'm kidding, but literally a text came in to my phone about 10 seconds ago. A parent talking about the league this summer and who's going to fish with who. It's almost funny, right? Like the kids aren't trading baseball cards. They're trading baits. Like fishing has consumed a lot of kids, and I think that is a great thing. And I think you've seen it in the league, right? Your numbers have grown a little bit.
We've seen it with that, and now with my kids, my oldest being involved with the high school fishing push that's coming. It's something, and I was talking to Brandon a little bit before we started recording. It's fishing is just fun, and most kids who catch a fish or go out who typically aren't necessarily exposed because of having somebody to take them, but you take most 5-year-olds out to catch a sunfish or a bass, they're going to enjoy it. And I think that's what's happening, especially the time period that we're in right now, where there are no other really options for sports.
Hmm.
And seeing a lot of these families. I'm in northern Minnesota on a lake that's usually busy on the 4th of July, and there's families out fishing during the middle of the week because there's not much else to do. So yeah, it's great to see the explosion and the popularity of it when times get tough, especially too. It's a mental diversion. It's a great lifelong sport hobby. And with the baits and the tackle and rigging and just all the technology that's available, it's just it's a nice, healthy activity for families. So
So let's talk a little bit about how kids can get started. And I want to keep this simple. Yes, you can have a big fancy boat. You can have, 15 rods and all the bait and tackle that you can find out at the store, but you don't need all that to fish and have success. So your advice, if somebody's listening and they say, we should try that this weekend, but I have no idea what to do. What's your advice to them?
I always, and this is part of the reason why I started the league, was one, because I thought that I had a lot of questions. How do I get started with fishing? Well, one of the best ways is to have somebody else show you how to get started.
Yeah.
Because, like you just mentioned, you watch a lot of fishing shows, TV shows. There is a lot of tackle and technology, and to a point where it's almost overwhelming, where I've
Oh,
caught
for sure.
more fish on a plain hook with a worm minnow or some simple plastic um, over the years than just about any other bait. So the simplicity and is key, I think. And I think having somebody, whether it's somebody like myself or you, I know you've taken a lot. If you can show moms and dads how to show their kids how to fish,
Yep.
I think that's the best model. I tell people, and I'm a little biased because I was a fishing guide at one point, but one of the best ways to learn how to fish your lake or a lake is, instead of spending $250 on tackle, hire a fishing guide for a day or an afternoon and tell them that most of these guides are more than happy to teach and share what works, and they'd be happy. That's probably the best money you could spend.
Yeah.
And just talking to people who fish, who can help you. Most of the people are more than willing to help out.
And I find that bait shops are very much the same. If you go in and spend a few bucks, they will tell you how to catch fish. I'll use the bait shops here in the western suburbs of the Twin Cities as an example. If you ask them, hey, is there a spot where we can go out and just catch some panfish or some bass? They'll point you to a dozen different lakes, right? And the other part of that I think that's important is the state now has put in these fishing piers. You can go out to Lake Independence and walk out to the end of the fishing pier and throw a bobber with a simple hook and worm, and you can catch fish all day long there. And that takes nothing, right? As far as resources, it takes a $15 or $20 fishing rod, a couple of hooks, a $3 can of worms, and a valid Minnesota fishing license, and you're at it, right?
Exactly. And I think the key you hit on there is, especially when you're taking kids for the first time, is having success
Yes.
fishing. Because you and I get to a point where now I can go out on the water and spend 8 hours and not catch a fish and enjoy it. Kids' attention spans are a little different. So catching and having some success or a kind of a game plan, if you don't catch fish, of playing with minnows, having snacks, making the
Yes.
whole experience of fishing. Catching is fun. We all love to catch, but there's a whole experience around it. I had a great story shared with me on opener from a buddy whose daughter caught a 30-inch walleye on opener when you were talking about how it was snowing. Who they sat in the garage for 5 hours and re-rigged reels and lines and tied on jigs, and he helped her go through that whole process. She picked out a red jig. They went out at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night because it had stopped snowing, and she hooked this walleye. She wanted her dad to help. He wouldn't help her reel it in. So it's just this great story of this 10-pound walleye, but it was the experience that, when he was telling the story, that they'll never forget that experience of getting the tackle ready, picking out the jig. Now they've got a walleye that they're going to mount. Find a nice spot on the wall. And I mean, it was a great story, but it's the experience that goes into fishing, the planning. When you start taking trips, there's just so much that you can do with your kids and include them in those, in the whole experience.
It's funny, one of my kids has always been very focused and will fish for hours. The other loves it equally, but his attention span is like 7 minutes, right? Catch a few fish and then on something else. And so when they were younger, what they loved was my box of bobbers. I have a box with, bobbers that we pulled out of the water that we find, stuff I purchase. And they love to almost like pull that box apart and match colors and sizes, lay them all out. And like that bobber box kept them busy when they were younger for a lot of times. The other thing is, yes, keep them wanting more, right? A fishing trip doesn't have to be 2 hours long. It can be 20 minutes or a half an hour. Go out, catch a couple of fish, call it and say, hey, you know what? We're going to run and get a hamburger or an ice cream cone, and we'll do this again sometime. Having them want more, keep those trips really short, seem to work for us as well.
Right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You've got to know I don't want to say customer, but you know your kids and their attention spans. And like I said, I've got three. They're all super different with how long they'll fish or what piques their interest out there. But yeah, the worst thing you can do is throw a couple kids in a boat in a snowstorm and fish for 8 hours trying to catch walleyes. I
Right.
mean, that's the recipe for creating a golfer.
Right.
Pick the weather, look at the weather. If it's windy or rainy, do some of that planning. Don't try to force the fishing trip or try to force. I mean, because it's June right now, all I want to do personally is go catch walleyes because I know this is a good time to catch them. That's the last thing my kids want to do. All they want to do is go catch smallmouth bass.
Yep.
So we put them on a spot. I walleye rig on the deep edge and let them cast up towards the shallows versus dragging them out to a hump and making them walleye fish just because, you want to make it enjoyable and set it up for success.
The other thing that the Shercks have been doing, and this is a absolutely underutilized resource in our state, is trout fishing on the streams down in southeastern Minnesota. And there are streams all over Minnesota, but a lot of the best are focused in that part of the state. More miles of fishable trout water in the driftless region than all of Montana. I mean, think about that. Miles and miles and miles and miles. And public access all over the place. Online, the state has all the maps and shows the easements and the best streams. And you can go down there with two little Rapala X-Rap crankbaits and, again, a valid license to fish trout. You need a trout stamp, which is like an extra $10. And you can go anywhere. And for us, part of the magic has been there's a little huck fin to it, right? You put on a little pack, you grab your fishing rod, a couple bottles of water, and you just start hiking. And you go explore and you find water that looks good and you catch fish. That's another fun way to fish that is very different from sitting on a lake.
That's great. I've been invited. I've got some buddies that are going to be mad that you're talking about that because they call it the best kept secret in our state is those trout streams. And it's something that needs to get put onto my list because, like you said, I kind of get stuck on the lake and forget about the rivers too that we have in the state and the Great Lakes up by Duluth for going and trolling and catching trout. We're very fortunate because of the angling opportunities that we have. and the opportunity to get kids involved in those, because you can, like you just mentioned, every one of these places are great places to take your kids.
You are listening to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. I have along for today's ride fishing friend and mentor, Kolt Ringer, who heads up the AAL Fishing League here in the Twin Cities on Lake Minnetonka, which my boys fish every year until they get kicked out because they get too old. Um, the podcast today brought to you, of course, by our good friends at Star Bank. And Star has a message for us.
Hi there, Ron Sherck here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? It's time to make the switch. Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Let me give you some advice from personal experience. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. From Maple Lake to Elbow Lake, Eagle Bend to Eden Prairie. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Kolt, how important do you feel fishing is right now to Minnesota with everything going on in the world? What does fishing do to the soul?
I think it connects you to something bigger, nature, and it doesn't. There's no boundaries, right? It doesn't. The fish, you mentioned it earlier. The fish don't care about your $70,000 bass boat. They don't care if you're 5 or 50. They're not, they give you those opportunities, and it doesn't matter, with what we have happening in Minneapolis and now across the world. There's no skin color. There's nothing that separates, somebody from loving to fish, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
just something that you can stand on a pier at the Narrows Bridge and go up and down, and everybody can enjoy themselves, and you have a common language, you have something in common. It's that tug that just kind of makes you appreciate what you've got, where we live, the opportunities that we have, and being able to connect with people because you can
Yep.
share that common bound because of fishing.
It's simple and it's profound. On opener this year, we decided we were going to go out with a camera and document opener. At that point, it was COVID that was ruling our lives, and we wanted to see how people were feeling. And it's funny, we ran into a mother and daughter sitting on shore at Minnetonka. And daughter had mom out because mom had lost her fishing buddy a year ago and hadn't fished the opener the year before. So she said, I got to get mom back out. And her mom, I don't know, 70, 72 years old, and was so tickled to just be sitting, watching the boats come by and wetting a line. And of course, when we were there, she caught a really nice bass and was just tickled. But her comment about, I don't care if I even catch a fish today. Look where I am. I'm outside. I'm around other people at a safe distance, and I'm watching the world go by, and it's good. And for some reason, just that little moment struck me, right? We've turned fishing, or a lot of people have turned fishing into, brightly colored jerseys with sponsors and high-tech gear and fancy techniques, do this or else. And sometimes you need to just step back and enjoy the process and enjoy what's around you. I have lots of fishing trips where we don't catch as many fish as we might hope. I had one just the other night. Had a buddy out for the first time on a trout stream, and I expected that he was going to catch 30 fish, no problem, and he caught 2. Now, he did miss one monster that he had hooked for a while and didn't understand what he was dealing with and lost that fish. But it was the sounds of the stream, right? It was sunset. It was the prairie grass around us. And we're going again next week because he had such a great experience. And I think that's what we need to remember. Fishing is a little bit of therapy right now, and it just kind of takes you away. And going back to your kids' league on Minnetonka, I think that, yes, there's a little bit of competition to it, friendly competition, but it's bigger than that. It's the social aspect. It's kids together. It's teaching them a new life skill. And I think that's been the big win for your league, don't you think?
Yeah, and I want to give proper credit where credit is due, because when it's taken a village of dads and moms to get their kids out to make, kind of the league run the way it does, because that's really what it's all about. It's parents connecting with their kids and getting them fishing. And this year, I just want to give a shout out to Jason Torso and TJ Weidman, I think is the correct pronoun, because they're doing the heavy lifting this year.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point. My kids are a little bit older, and so those guys deserve the credit. The last couple of years, I've had to really lean on that group, and I appreciate the work that those guys are doing, because it was when I was heavily involved. It's coming to the dock at the end of the night when the sun is going down, and having a couple sunfish in your live well, and not a 5-pound bass, but a pound bass, and walking up and down the dock and looking at the kids look at each other's live wells, interact with each other, talk about what they caught, talk about the big muskie that tried to eat one of the kids' bass, talk about the
Yep.
muskie that a kid caught, sharing those stories, I think. And just talking about it, it's hard to believe how fast time goes, but those were some of the best memories I have of fishing recently, is those. And it wasn't a Jersey running around. We had 30-foot cruisers show up with kids fishing on the back, to kids, fishing off a shore or in, a 1965 Lund with a 9.9 on the back. That's what was, stood out about that, and just taking the time to get together and meet and let the kids kind of share it together, I think, is the biggest thing from that league that stands out.
It's funny. So there's a point system, right? Like you can catch,
Yep.
I don't know, up to 20 sunnies at 1 point apiece, and a bonus if they're a certain size. And then you can catch 5 or 6 bass at 3 points apiece or whatever it is. And I laugh because in doing this for so many years, being a boat captain, helping the kids, a lot of times they would catch all their bass. And it's almost like the total length of those 6 bass combined was like 14 inches, right? Because they throw a little tiny beetle spin up in some shallow, weedy flat, and they'd catch 4 to 6 inch largemouth bass. And yes, they'd catch some big fish too if they wanted, but the end result was the same, whether that fish was 2 pounds or a half a pound. They were still having success, and they were catching something.
Because they were worth 3 points each.
Right. And so that's why I think, taking kids shore fishing, letting them catch little sunnies, it doesn't matter. If they have some success catching something, even if it's a little like river sucker, right? It doesn't matter. It's just the fun of the process. So, will I see you this year at the Kids Angling League, or are you too busy running running your businesses.
No, I am going to make it a point to be there. I may have my youngest, like I said, all of mine have different levels. My
Yep.
youngest, if I get his right buddy that can join us, he'll come out and fish. If it's a sunny night and the ninja line is calling his name, then he'll be on the ninja line.
So
Um, yeah,
if somebody wants to get involved with
yeah.
your summer league, how do they do that? Where's the best way to find information?
On Facebook right now, search American Angler Leagues and AmericanAnglerLeagues.com on the website. And I think Jason and TJ have that information up for this summer already on Minnetonka, Waconia. And, just to piggyback on that league, just even if for some reason you're in an area that doesn't have one, we made it where you could go out and fish and just turn in your points and do that.
Yep.
Or I think one of the secrets to success, when you're just talking with kids, we do it all the time now because of the point system. We have little mini tournaments or little mini competitions for an hour or 2 hours and use points. And
Mm-hmm.
to those families or parents that are looking for different ways to engage their kids while they're out fishing, or you're at more at an advanced level, have little mini competitions with your kids. I mean, we've even done a hockey period where you do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and you keep score of how many
Yeah.
fish you catch. So there's just lots of little fun things you can do. But yeah, the best way I think right now is on Facebook and search American Angler Leagues. And you should be able to find out the information for the Minnetonka, Waconia, and if there's other areas you want to get involved. That'd be a great start.
Well, you have done a great job on that league, and you have impacted a heck of a lot of kids. Like I said, the Sherck boys and kind of the group of kids, they hang out with. They're not doing baseball cards. They're trading baits and designing fishing team logos and talking about where their next great adventures are going to be, and that's pretty special. So, thanks for sharing your passion, Kolt.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all the moms and dads that take their kids fishing. I mean, that's the recipe for success. And if that isn't, there's people out there, that will mentor, and there's so many good organizations doing such great work to try to get kids out there fishing, and just hope everybody is healthy during this time, and like you said, can use fishing as a break and a way to, I guess, connect us going forward too with everything going on.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you have specific questions, again, you can look up Kolt with the American Angler Leagues. You can drop me a note, bill@mnbound.com, short for Minnesota Bound. If you're looking for spots, just drop us notes and we'll help any way we can. Kolt, we'll see you on the water. Again, everyone, thanks for listening. This is the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. And thanks to Star Bank for all you do to help us get the podcast on the air. Get out, get fishing, introduce a kid to the outdoors, and we'll talk to you next week.